This is the beginning of the showcase for Team 2. This is iteration 1 of our project, and we are working on a comprehensive data reporting system for the company Transcard. I am Nathaniel Newton, and our team consists of myself, Alexis Olette, Catherine Hathaway, Ridge Longway, Riley Sneed, and Shangtin Tuong. Our work this iteration mostly took place in our own individual folders in Microsoft Fabric. We each stored our preliminary work inside of a notebook in our own folder. For me, I used my notebook as a place to start experimenting with queries related to our spikes this iteration. These spikes we all worked on as a team to some extent. However, I naturally spent more time on the one about SQL, as that is where I wrote all my queries in. I also spent some time in the data analytics, and I saw what visualizations were available inside of Power BI. This first query is financial based, using a join between two tables to gain clarity on the apartments and the amount of disbursements that have gone to each one. The second table was part of our exploration to using the given zip code data and the possibility of blending it with the info from the imported CSVs, seen here, to provide us with the state and county locations for each apartment so that we can incorporate accurate geographical data into the future. And finally, this table would allow us to get more information about recipients and be a gateway to using outside demographic data to provide insights on these base metrics.
Hello, my name is Ridge Longway, and this is my part of the Project Progress Showcase for Iteration 1. To start, as you can see, I'm already on the company lakehouse, because that was kind of like the primary goal of this iteration, was getting into the virtual machine and being able to play around with the data using SQL and Python, and just getting an understanding of the programs that we have, and just planning for the future ahead. So to start, as you can see, I have a Python script right here. This is a PySpark script that just basically takes the table and turns it into a usable data frame that I can use for later explorations. Personally, I have more experience with Python, so this may be better for me. Only time will tell, but this addresses the Python learning part of our stories. Additionally, I have a basic SQL query here just to find the disbursement total amounts between 1,000 and 6,000 that were revoked. This is just to show that I can do a query on here, that I know how to query. This is to answer the story part where we agreed to just kind of learn how to do SQL queries, making sure that we got to brush up on that memory so that we could be prepared to do data analytics. I have been repeatedly going into this and like deleting and putting in new stuff so I could explore the data. That's kind of the other part of our stories, was mostly just data exploration. So as you can see here, I'm just kind of learning about this part, trying to learn if there's possibly any correlation between maybe where they're revoked. Over time, when we're mixing in stuff like the zip codes and the demographics, we could learn more. But till then, I've just been trying to get a feel for the data, because two of our stories were to get a hold of, or more of a feel of, like the domain data and the financial data. I feel like I have a good hold on the financial data. I understand what all of this means across all the tables for all the financial related data. The domain data I feel more comfortable with as well, but I know that there's probably more that I need to know, so that's still in progress. We're still working on that. But I feel comfortable in it. I've done research on it outside of just looking at the data here for both the financial and the domain data. Additionally, I do know how to utilize Power BI. I watched the video that you gave us on Power BI, or, well, that was provided to us, not that you gave us, my bad. And additionally, I watched as the others were creating reports and visualizations in Power BI for our mockup showcase, and I'm sure they will probably be showing it in their parts. Additionally, I provided a list of zip codes to the team so that we could get a better feel for basically all the zip codes, their states, their counties, so that we could start merging it. Thanks to Riley, these were all put in here. But before, I was just kind of looking for the zip codes, and I was also gathering demographic data, which addresses another story of ours, where we agreed that we were going to look for demographic data and zip code data so that we could start coming up with insights, or at least be prepared to come up with them in iteration 2. The whole plan with iteration 1 here is just to kind of prepare ourselves for iteration 2, get ourselves familiarized with the tools, with the data. I feel like that's gone pretty well so far. Additionally, as you can see, since we're on Fabric here, that was one of the stories, was just to make sure that we get into Fabric. That's all done. And the only other story that should be left is the AI tools. I don't have a way of showing it, but we did look into possible AI tools. I know that's for way later down the line, but we just want to make sure that we have enough knowledge on it so that if we're going into it with, say, ChatGPT APIs, or if we go back to Copilot, or if we use something different, we know something. And additionally, I had more experience with my artificial intelligence class. We did a big project where we went and like every group used a different AI program, so I got to learn a whole lot from that. That should be all from me. This is about where I stand on the progress for this, and I hope you have a great holiday.
Okay. So I'm still having trouble getting onto the VM, but I was able to access Power BI, and I used some of the other team members' tables that they already made, and I made some graphs. I made this bar graph that shows the um, the feedback report, and then I also made this graph with the average disbursements by the apartment name. Here I just put it all together the way I did it, and that's about all I've been able to do since I'm still having trouble getting into the VM.
Hello, this is Catherine. So the first thing I did for iteration 1 is set up my Transcard VM. Then I did the required training to access Power BI. Once I had access to Power BI, I worked on getting a feel for the data, first by looking through the data to understand variable names and general relationships. For example, non-recipient and non-recipient allocations. Non-recipient allocations is either equal to or a multiple of non-recipients. Then I wrote some simple SQL queries to further understand the data. One example is this query to show not null values for revocation reason name, which shows that there are two values for revocation reason name, revoked by API and null. Another query that I wrote is a query to check what payments that fail look like. This includes allocation amount, payment amount, the type, and payment status. Lastly, I worked on researching the different topics related to this project. And that's all for me.
My name is Shantin Tudong. In this iteration 1, me and my team members, we are working on user story, which is 7th user story. In this iteration 1, I do research on Microsoft database storage, and then I also learn more about Python so that I will be ready for the next implementation. And then I also do research on SQL database, which is existing database from Microsoft Fabric. And I also do research on the tools for chatbot deployment, as well as I also do research on the financial data and the Power BI tools for the project. So here is I implemented um, user story, depend on user story, and I research on our database, the Microsoft database, and so that I can be fully have knowledge, and then when we implement next iteration, so I will be ready to contribute to the project. So here is the SQL query that I implemented. There is 3 SQL query. So the first one is the expire disbursement for the ID, the product ID, and then the second one is the valuable insight of that describe customer feedbacks. And then the last one is I did research on the investment within 6 months. So when we see the first one, this one is the expire date from the product ID, and then the second one is the rating. As we can see, this is really interesting. It's really interesting because like here is customer count and here is the rating. As we can see, from 1 to 5, from 1 to 5 star, there is we have seen we observe that 5 star is the customer count. A lot of customer are satisfied with this service, so there is a lot of 5 star rating compared to 1 to 4 star. So so we here we can see 1 to 5, then a 5 star is more than the other ratings. So it's really interesting. And the last one is uh, this one is the last one, the last database. So this is the investment in 6 months. So this is like we can see payment, yes, yes, and this is the investment ID, and this is like recipient ID. So this is the within the last 6 months the investment. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Ross Sneed. And for this project, for the spikes, I looked up on how to use tools such as Microsoft Fabric and how to use Power BI. And I also reviewed on how to use Python and reviewed over SQL. Also, for this iteration for the spikes, I explored the database. Um, I also done research on zip code with the corresponding states and looked up geographical information like the, for example, the Tennessee's overall population, and then get into deeper, like in county wise, like in in Tennessee and McMinn County population. But anyway, but right here, I created a folder with my name, and then I created this notebook, and then you can see all this commented out. I explored the database like I mentioned earlier, and we not also I figured out that um, this uses Spark SQL, which is kind of different, but it's still similar to my SQL that we've been taught at Tennessee Tech, but that's a little bit different. But nothing, nothing big difference. But for this right here, you can see where I selected the property um, names and the zip code, and from the table between these ranges of zip codes. And if you go right here to this website that I found, this website ranges zip codes to the corresponding state. So for Tennessee, you can see that the corresponding zip code ranges from 37010 through 38589. So if you run this, you should get all these zip codes that are in the state of Tennessee, which means all these properties that I listed right here are in the state of Tennessee. And for this query right here, one of my team members founded this repo with all the zip codes, state, city, counties, latitude, and longitude um, in the United States. So what I did was that I created 6 CSV files, and I uploaded them by adding them to the files, which you can see right here. And then I just uploaded it to the databases as tables. I had to do for each table that I created. And the reason I created 6 CSV files is because the maximum in the databases, not database, but for each table in the databases, are 10,000 columns. And the problem we had was that we had 42,000 different zip codes, and it just couldn't fit into all in one table. So we had to create 6 different tables, and we created those tables depending on the database. And for this right here, what this does is that it makes a temp table where it combines all the tables from the table of zip codes from 1 to 6, and then it does select the property name, the zip code, the state's full name, the city, the county, city and county, from this table right here, and then we join those 2 tables where that zip code from each table are equivalent, so that we can match the zip code to the correct states. And then we can order them, and then this orders the table by the state's full name. So you run this, you can see where it orders the properties names. It has the properties names, the zip codes, the state, the city, and the county. And for in the future, we can use this data for collecting information like the population in the state of Tennessee, and we can go and further like the population in Athens, Tennessee, then further like the population in McMinn County, and so on. And we can also do it where we can just look up Tennessee, where the state's full name is equivalent to the state of Tennessee. We can run this, and right there is just the places in all the properties in the state of Tennessee with that information, like the properties name, the zip code, the state, which we looked up only Tennessee, and the cities and the county. And that is the end of the video.